But Vinod, let's move on to maybe AI. What did you? I mean, how did you invest in OpenAI back in 2017, 18?
Yeah. 2018 is when we made the decision to invest.
And like, I mean,
Makes no sense.
Makes no, like, what gave you, like, in some ways, you can call it foresight, courage, delusion, like, to make that investment at that point?
So I think it's very important to have a belief system. In what people do is believe what others are believing as opposed to from first principles think through. So I'll give you two examples. Let me start somewhere else. 1996, Sun adapted TCP/IP in 1982, only once. Nobody else adapted it. Fine. By 1995, it was clear to me TCP/IP was scaling. I talked to Cisco, and their CTO told me they'd never do a TCP/IP router above OC12. Talked to Lucent, Alcatel, nobody was doing it. I talked to AT&T on all the providers, and they were not ever planning on using TCP/IP. I called Pradeep and I said, we worked together for 6 months, building a plan to say, we will build an industrial grade router for the public network. If you look at any literature from 1996, ATM was going to be the asynchronous transfer mode, to those who don't keep up with telecom, was going to be the protocol of the internet. In fact, I consider this one of my biggest contributions. We said, well, everybody's going on ATM. We will only do TCP/IP. And Cisco was doing multi-protocol routers, so they were still routing AppleTalk in 1996. And every conceivable protocol, we said, we'll build a TCP/IP only router for the public network with a set of characteristics, like atomic updates, like rollbacks, like almost like a database kind of functionality, but in network routing. And we clearly focused on this. Nobody else was doing it, and guess we won. And I don't think TCP/IP would have become the protocol for the internet if we hadn't started Juniper to do this. It's massive. But the result of that was on my first $3 million investment, we made 2,500x. You can compute the numbers.
That's what I'm doing in my head, but yeah. 7.5 billion. Okay, all right, yeah.
Right. In fact, it was either Pinterest or Snap going public. The Wall Street Journal did an article on the highest returns ever. And Juniper was number one in terms of multiple of money invested. In those days, 7.5 billion was a lot of money.
I think it still is.
It still is. It just, there was no outcomes where a venture firm made $1 billion. Now it's more common.
More common.
But it's having a belief system and building it. But to your question on AI, which I want to get to, I saw TCP/IP growing exponentially and near the knee of the curve. And I said, I don't care what anybody else is saying. The curve of TCP/IP traffic is increasing at an exponential rate, and exponentials look pretty flat in the beginning, and then a big curve. Same thing with AI. I looked at, in 2000 is first when I mentioned AI in an article with the New York Times. I literally said in that article, I wanted to be vague. AI will have us redefine what it means to be human. You can look it up, my interview in the New York Times. And I think we are very close to that now. But 2012, I wrote 2 blogs called Do We Need Doctors? Thesis being AI will be the doctor. And then Do We Need Teachers? AI will be the tutor. Both problems we are working on. But I saw the influx of talent into AI. I saw the rates, the beginnings of the exponential in terms of capability. There were all these curves about human performance is up here and AI is down here, but it's increasing. And it was clear to me, if you followed the data, the curves would intersect. If you followed the press, you'd believe nonsense about this won't happen. So it's fundamentally thinking from first principles, follow the data, not what everybody else is saying. If you follow what everybody else is saying, you're going to do the same thing. It's not going to be that distinguished. But this idea of having a belief system and trying to follow data.
So in that case, I mean, once you frame it, well, once you put it